You can't have an easy life and a great character. Show me a trust fund kid that inherited a bunch of money, and I'll show you someone mentally tortured. It's true, right? Having stuff isn't fun. Getting stuff is fun. It's not the pursuit of happiness. It's the happiness of the pursuit. You know, the self-help is not the journey, it's the destination. It's not either the journey or the destination. It's who you become on the journey. And here's the terrible thing about life. It's self-assignment. Like, you know, there's school and college, and then you get dropped into the real world at some point, and you go, well, you have to decide what you're going to do. And you can take an easy path, and it's ultimately less fun. It's short money. Or you take a hard path and you give yourself a challenge, and it's great.
Nietzsche said, "I know of no better life purpose than to perish in attempting the great and impossible." The fact that something seems impossible shouldn't be a reason to not pursue it. That's exactly what makes it worth pursuing. Where would the courage and greatness be if success was certain and there was no risk? The only true failure is shrinking away from life's challenges.
The man who never failed, the man who never fell has no glory. The man who fell and got back up, that's where his glory is. The man who fell 20 times and got up 21 times, that man has even greater glory.
Wow.
That man has more courage, way more courage than the guy who was so strong from birth that he never failed. There's no glory in that.
Is if you show up in a crowd and your goal is to fit in, then you're putting your self-worth on the line. But if you show up and your goal is just to be yourself, then you can't fail. And your self-worth is, at the end of the day, is if you just act like yourself, everybody can do that, and then you leave feeling good about yourself because you have control over that. But if you're showing up and you're just doing and being anything just to be fit into the crowd, and you don't fit in and you're not even being yourself, you're worthless. So it's a lot easier to just show up and make the goal to be seen rather than to be accepted, because that's who you are and it's in your control.
Because you're sad, now you're going to make a bunch of bad decisions because you're sad. No, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. You're sad, okay. You get emotional sometimes, okay. Got it. Now, get control of your emotions and carry on with your life. And sometimes you're gonna get hit with those waves, and that's okay. I think that's a big misconception. Oh, I'm having an emotional moment right now. There's something wrong with me. No, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. The other extreme is, oh, I'm letting my emotions run my life, and I'm making a bunch of bad decisions, and my excuse is, well, you know, I lost some friends, or I had this traumatic experience happen to me. That's why I'm doing. That's just an excuse. And it's a very easy excuse. And in society, the last thing I want to say to you is, well, you can't act like that. Oh, you lost one of your friends? Hey, that doesn't mean you can make an excuse. You can't use that as an excuse. No, I go, hey, man, okay. That's what I say, right? I'm a polite person. I'm an empathetic person. You're sad. You're making bad decisions. You're saying it's because you lost your friend or you went through this traumatic thing. And I go, okay, how can I help? Instead of saying, hey man, yeah, guess what? It's time to carry on. Don't dwell on the, I've told 1,000 veterans this. Remember, don't dwell. Remember your friends, don't dwell in the past though. Remember, don't dwell. That's what we have to do. And the emotions, yes, embrace those emotions, but don't let those emotions embrace you.
It won't get harder. Like, this is the hardest part. And so if you can just make it through this, everything else is downhill. It's not that the things that the dragons are going to slay aren't going to get bigger. They are. But you become so much more equipped to slay them back. And you have so many more allies. You have people in the stands cheering for you. You have the audience. You have all of these other things that are behind you. But in the beginning, it's just you with a stick against a bear. And arguably, that fight is a harder fight to win than beating a dragon when you have a nuclear bomb and 6 nations behind you. And so it's not even like the size of the hardship, it's just also the resources and how few of them you have, and how so much of the beginning is literally burning the one thing you have, which is time, because you have no leverage. You don't have the money to pay other people to help you. You don't have the resources to go like get someone to, no one can learn it for you. It's like there's a lot of the things that we care about a lot, like no one can work out for you. Doesn't matter how much money you have, no one can learn skills for you. And so in the early days, like it feels so painful because you're like, you look around to see who can help you and then you're like, it's me again. If I have unbelievable big dreams and big goals, then I have to go through hard times. It's like hate. The hard times are a requisite for success. And so if you're going through hard times right now, it means that you're on the path to success. And it's not that you're on the wrong path. It's the feeling of being on the right path.
How does one convince themselves that what they're doing and working on is worth it?
The question of worth it is reliant on an outcome. We don't make these things for an outcome. It's not the mindset to make something great. The outcome happens. You're making the best thing you can make. It's a devotional practice. Whatever happens after that happens. And that part that happens after it is completely out of your control. Putting any energy into that part that's out of your control is a waste of time. All it does is undermine your work. Your work is to make the best thing you can. So any thought you have about outcome undermines the whole thing.
See, that's the difference in how your life works out. It's not what happens, it's what you do. So here's one of the key questions of the evening. Starting tomorrow, what are you going to do that'll make a change in your life's direction? Good question. What are you going to do starting tomorrow that'll make a difference? Now see, if you don't do something starting tomorrow that'll make a difference, guess what? It's gonna be the same. And see, that way you can guess what the next 5 years are gonna be like. Look at the last 5. Because the next 5 are gonna be like the last 5 unless you, major key, tomorrow, change it all. Or change a little, or change something, or don't change. It's choice time. You can do whatever you want. But it's nice to know any day you wish you can change your whole life.
Well, Confucius had a great saying that, every man has 2 lives, and the second starts when he realizes he has just one.
Mark Manson quote here is, "The person you have to spend the most time listening to in your life is yourself. Try not to lose their respect." Self-respect and self-esteem, I think, largely comes from having faith in your own word. So if you were to treat yourself like a friend you are responsible for helping, which is Peterson's advice, right? Let's say that every time you invited a friend out for lunch, they turned up late or didn't turn up at all, they didn't text back, they just kept not holding to their word. After a while, you wouldn't believe in them, you wouldn't be friends with them, and you'd stop inviting them out to lunch. You are that friend to yourself. How on earth do you think that you're going to be able to move mountains and get out of that relationship that you don't like and move countries or change career when you can't not hit snooze, even though last night you promised yourself that you weren't going to hit snooze?
We are who we are when nobody's watching. If you want to know who you really are, be on your own. Go somewhere on your own, on holiday or whatever, and that's who you are. If you're driving along and you throw the soda can out of the window of the car, that's who you really are. No one does that with kids in the back. Monster. But if you do that, if that's who you, it's interesting to kind of note that. It's the difference between character and reputation. You really know who you are. Reputation is what everyone else thinks about you, but you know who you are in yourself.
Just because something is hard to obtain does not mean that it is valuable.
Just because something is hard to obtain doesn't mean it's valuable.
Look at the car he's driving, look at the watch he's wearing, look at the girl he's with. These things were hard to obtain, so you presumed that they were valuable, but you didn't realize that what's genuinely valuable are friendships and relationships and a comfort and a confidence in yourself and peace of mind and sanity and being able to positively impact the people around you.
If my dad had been an alcoholic, and you ask me, Cliff, why are you an alcoholic? And I say, well, because my dad was an alcoholic. And then I've got 5 younger siblings, none of whom are alcoholics, and you ask them, well, why are you not alcoholics? And they say, because my dad was an alcoholic. See, what we're getting at is, yes, we're all influenced by the environment we grew up in, no question about it. But then we choose what we're going to do with that environment. And I can choose to use my dad being an alcoholic to justify me being an alcoholic, or I can say, you know something? I'm never going to touch a drop of alcohol because my dad was an alcoholic, and I saw how destructive it was in his life.